Yes. And we're angry, the name of the song, is Angry, but I think her listen. Everybody.
Us today. My name is Lynette Hall. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for the City of Sacramento. I'm going to, thank you, guys. Also known as Ella's daughter, for those who know, Ella's daughter. But again, I really want to thank you all for coming out in the cold and the rain. You guys are showing up and showing out, so I appreciate that. Before I start, I do want to give a special shout out to my mother, Ella Hall, who's over there talking. Mom, I was telling you, thank you so much. So we have been trying to get you all, and it's been difficult. This is our 6th meeting. And we've been trying, we've been trying to get folks out. And so I finally got my mom involved in the project, and I think she called a lot of you and reached out and dropped off the draft. And so I just want to thank her for that. And I want to keep you guys engaged. So the lay of the land today is that we're going to go over kind of what the project is. There's a couple different pieces to it. We have a brief presentation to kind of explain this large document because it's a lot of different topics. And then we will break out into sessions where we can kind of talk about the different topics, and you all will be able to choose which area, whether it's art and culture, religion, business, you all can go move to these tables. So with that being said, I want to introduce some staff. Before I introduce the immediate staff, I want to thank Kelly Rivas Fong. She is in the mayor's office. She used to be the mayor's chief of staff, and now she is the senior policy director. She works on racial equity. And so the mayor's office dedicated a position to specifically work on racial equity. So that's huge in the city of Sacramento. So we are thankful for that. And then I also want to give a shout out to Robert Bell, who's a new city employee. He's in the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And then we have Henry. Henry is a preservation planner. And so we are thankful for Henry. Henry keeps us together and makes sure that we're moving forward. And then our former historic preservation director is Carson Anderson. And Carson retired. And then he came back to work specifically on this project because he's really passionate about it. So we thank him for retiring, but coming back, right? So, and then Sean DeCourcy is the existing historic preservation. And I just really love this man for how he went out and fought to get stipends. So we're going to talk a little bit about how much money the project, the grant was. And then we realized we needed to be able to provide stipends for people to help get us together. So stipends are available if you all want to have smaller discussions at home or another place where you feel a little bit more comfortable. Stipends are available to pay for food and things of that nature. He went out and asked for more money just for that. So shout out to Sean. With that being said, I just want to kind of explain to you all what is this project. So Sean, do you want to kind of talk about why now and what exactly is this project?
You actually go to Carson.
Okay. Okay.
Tickle my throat.
Okay. So we're gonna go to Carson. So Carson, can you may need to stand and project a little bit, or
Thanks for that.
can you tell us a little bit about the African American experience and what this historic context statement?
So the city got a grant from the National Trust a bit over a year ago. And that is to fund kind of an overview history of Black Sacramento, starting in the middle of the 19th century during the gold rush era, when the city was first established, going all the way to 1980. This is a pretty big thing to take on. So we got the grant was for $50,000. And we're really doing like $250,000 worth of work here because of all the research that has to go on. So we immediately started partnering with community organizations. So Sacramento State's Public History Program was one of our partners. They went out and they did our first round of oral histories a year ago. The students in the oral history class who were learning the techniques of how you go out and you interview people and get their stories. So they kind of kicked things off. And then we hired a historic consultant to help us pull together all the information, do some of the research. And then we brought on board interns, including our intern, Kristen Ross, who hadn't been introduced to you earlier. We're doing things like looking through US Census records and looking through the green books that our folks used to use to figure out where they could stay and where they couldn't stay when they were on the road. And we've got now, of course, this first draft version of the document that all that research created. That's like the main thing that our grantor is funding, is this research. We're going to be doing a updated version of it. That's why all of you are here, because we want to hear your information. We want you to go out and reach out to other people in the community who you know, who have stories to tell, who have information, who have scrapbooks and other things, so that we can get that information included in a more final version of this document. So even though it's like 146 pages, it's going to grow and we bring in the information that you provided. The next thing that we're going to do through Sacramento State's cultural resources class is the students are going to go out as a term project and use the information that we've gathered here to document 10 or so properties that have really strong Black historical associations with them. All of this information is sort of a first step. And so what we're hoping is we will get all of you and the larger community excited enough that we can take this to the next level. We can cover things that happened after 1980. We'll keep getting your oral histories gathered and archived so that your family members, your people who come after you, and scholars studying Sacramento's Black history will have that resource to draw upon. We're hoping that it will allow us to do better planning so that when buildings that have these strong connections, these strong stories associated with them, are up for demolition, we'll already know about them. We'll have already identified them. It won't be kind of one of these last minute things where, oh my God, that's historic and we didn't know about it and the developers already spent thousands of dollars to get ready to tear it down. So those are some of the things that this project is supporting. We're hopeful that maybe more grant money will be available after we've completed this and get a grant to do more work in the future. So that's kind of the big picture.
So there are two pieces. I want one, you will see a familiar name on here. So we hired a consultant, and one of the main partners is Dr. Damani Fisher from the Fisher. I know a lot of you probably know the Fisher, Ples Fisher. His son is also one of the key people on the consultant team. So we're super happy to have somebody that's from Sacramento, that knows Sacramento, a part of the team. There's two parts. There's the historic context statement, which is this large document. So I encourage you all to take it, make some notes on it, come back to another meeting and tell us what we got wrong, what's right, and what's missing. And then the second piece is the oral histories. So we know nobody knows our history like us. So it's important for us to tell our history in our own voice, because we know sometimes when things go to print, it might not sound like how we want it to sound. So we want to make sure that your voices are centered. So he mentioned we have our intern, Kristen, here. We have Kelly from the mayor's office. They are willing to come out to your house and collect your stories. You all can utilize your grandkids to record your stories on your phone and send it in. Whatever works for you, we will meet you where you are. If you all would like to record stories today, later on, We do have camera equipment set up, and so you all can go over there and we can record your histories today as well. A little bit on the rest of the day at about 11:30, 12 o'clock, we will have food, so we want to make sure that we feed you all as well. And from that, I'll turn it over to Sean. Okay. Do we have any questions before we kind of walk through the document? Because we are going to do some breakout sessions. You all will be able to select which table you want to sit in. But I want to make sure if you all have any questions before we get started. Can you all talk a little bit about the timeline before we go into the document?
Sure.
When this is the first draft, how many drafts will there be? And then oral histories. How long do they have to actually provide their oral history?
Good question. So the next draft will come out at the end of April, somewhere like the middle, the end of April. And then the project has to wrap up. The grant has a deadline of May the 30th, basically. So that's when we have to have everything wrapped up for the grantor. And the oral history is, we're thinking of this as something that can be ongoing. If you provide your oral histories before, say, the beginning of June, that information can help inform the next draft of the report. But we wanted to continue, we wanted kind of like on a StoryCorps model that NPR has created. We want this to be an ongoing option for the community to share out the stories. And those stories will be archived and they'll be preserved for posterity through the Center for Sacramento History, which is the city's archive and available to anyone that wants the information.
Okay. Any questions? And I didn't realize it's so large, but I think
He has a question. He has a question.
yes.
I was just noticing, everyone here, would it be advantageous to identify some of our elders? Because when we're talking about oral history, we're talking about our elders. So I'm looking at here, all of my elders that are, say, 85 plus here today. If you just raise your hand, the elders 85 plus. The next one would be my elders that are 90 plus, female elders 90 plus. Female, they're 90. All right, there we go. All right. Identify that individual, that also male 90 plus right here, plus right there. Right. Identify those that have been getting their history, because they're going to know more than all the rest of us as far as what went on, especially if they were born and raised right here in Sacramento.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
So that's all I have to say.
So maybe it would be helpful for us to have everyone just kind of introduce themselves. So their name, if you represent an organization or a church, how long you've been in Sacramento, and maybe where your family was originally from, if it's not, if they weren't originally from Sacramento. So do you want to start with that? So how about we have you start and we go this way?
Oh, no, we gotta start right here. Or, part of staff. Yeah, right here. We gotta start here.
Okay. Mr. Deb?
Talk. So you are.
I think gonna make up something. My name is Joe Debs. I'm a longtime community person. I've been here a few years. I recently worked for Senator Richard Pan. He has turned out, and so am I. So I just came to see what, like a lot of people, what this was all about, and see what the also the end game. And it was good listening to him say, brother said it's an ongoing kind of a thing. Anyway, my name is Joe Debs.
One second. It's not a cordless mic.
Okay, so
Yeah, in other words,
My name is Dr. Deshauna Latresa. I am a spiritual teacher, philosopher of spiritual wisdom and metaphysical science. I'm a Sacramento native. although my parents both migrated here from Mobile, Alabama in the sixties, when the base shut down over there. My family, we're the descendants of Joe Lewis. I know a lot of you may not know who that is, but he's one of the last illegal slaves that was brought over here on a slave ship called the Clotilda in Mobile, Alabama. So, yeah, but I myself am a Sacramento native. I've been born and raised here. I've been here my whole entire life.
My name is Kim Smith, and I'm here more to give a little piece of history representing Dr. Thomas Slaughter, one of the first OBGYN doctors here in Sacramento, and also here to help. So, and I'm so proud to see all of these elder people. I feel really good and honored and thankful to be able to be a part of this project.
Kathy Delaney, I've been here since '72. I'm the daughter of Betty O. Williams. Hi, I'm Kathy Delaney. I've been here since about 72. Came here with my mother, Betty O. Williams from Southern California.
My name is Magdalene Love. I'm just here because I was invited.
All right. Glad you're here.
My name is Elvina Carrington. I'm just here because I was invited as well. But I've spent 30 years or more in the employment and training arena at SETA. So I've been in the community, helping and getting people to where they need to be. And I'm originally from New York City by way of Fluvanna, Georgia, and Barbados.
Right.
My name is Heman Smith. I'm a retired attorney. I came to Sacramento in 1960 from the military out at Mesa. I know most of the names of the people who are in your research brochure. I've seen Sacramento grow. When I came here, I know the redlining and the discriminatory housing policy that we had at that time. So I'm familiar with most of the material in your book. So, thank you.
All right.
I'm Annie Manuel. I've been in Sacramento since 1971.
1971.
We've come from Mobile, Alabama.
Mobile, Alabama, 1971. Okay.
I'm Selwyn Jones.
Your base closed down.
Been here since 1965, migrated from East Texas.
We will jump over. Introduce yourself.
My name is Kristen, and I am an intern working with the Historic Preservation Department. My name is Kristen. I'm an intern working with the Historic Preservation team on the African American Experience Project.
All right.
Thank you. Mr. Franklin.
My name is Greg Bradley. We moved here from Marlin, Texas in '63. We still have some family members down the street on 20th Avenue and 23rd. And my family owns a touch of class over there on Stockton Boulevard. We're here just to represent. Tim invited me out. And just to show that we are the original Black Cowboys. It's us already. LA Times came to Sacramento and did a story about our club about 3 months ago and put us in the LA Times, and it went nationwide. So I'm the president of the Royalty Riders and the worst rider.
My name is Tim Watson. As Greg said, I'm a loyalty rider. I'm from Oakland, California. I came to Sacramento in 1986. I've been here since. I'm a friend of Lynette, her mom. And I have a lot of community ties. I'm in the process of doing a lot of youth outreach. I've worked with Brother Michael here with the homeless. And we're just trying to do some good things in the community and bring our generation together like it was in the '60s when he came when there wasn't a lot of them, and they had to come.
Thank you.
All right, hello, everybody. Michael Blair, and I'm an Oak Park resident for about the last 20 years. Got here to Sacramento in '89 and came from Anchorage, Alaska. So just glad to be here where it's a little bit warmer.
Hi, I'm LaSonia Jones Brown. I was born in Sacramento. I've been here 76 years. The family still has a home in Oak Park.
Hi, my name is Doris Atwater Gates. I went to American Legion Elementary School. I went to Stanford Junior High, went to Staten High, went to City College, went to State College. I was born in Fresno, 72 years old. Okay.
I'm 40 away, and I have been here since 1945. I came as a child from Springfield, Illinois, and I have been here a long time, and I've been married to John Wade for 60 years. But I am really glad for this. And I see some people here, we've not seen for a long time. And since 1945.
Well, thank you, Ms. Wade.
And I made it from the goal, and I've been around here every time.
That's it, that's all.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mercedes Ava. I have lived in the South Sacramento area for 55 years. Always have been in this community and have wanted to support this effort. I work for UC Davis Medical, and I'm with the Office for Health Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. So thank you for letting me.
My name is Alma Craig Vaughn. I was born, raised, and married here in Sacramento. My career, I started at American Legion, but unfortunately, it came to the district line, and I had to move to Bret Harte. And also, unfortunately, Stanford Junior High, the property that we're sitting on now, burned down before I ever got a chance to, I don't know. I'm listening hard. Yes. And, I'm the youngest and family of Annette and Clarence Craig.
I'm Virginia Craig, and I'm the oldest. I was born in LA, but my parents moved to Sacramento when I was 7 years old, so I grew up attended American Legion High School, American Legion Elementary School. And so quick, the reason was we were living in an area in Sacramento where they did not get all the blacks to attend school. So that was the main reason for moving. So I went to American Legion and that sad state. Thank you, and if you guys could speak up a little bit, if possible. Oh, I was saying, I'm beating out a lot, but I'm gonna let my other sister here speak to some of them.
I've had Craig and would very much like the fact that my dad, our dad, what he said, we were in a part. Well, oh, yeah. Loved over. And all of our family.
My name is John Wade. I came to Sacramento in 1953. I was in the military, I was there. I met my wife 40 years. And, we were married in 1954, so you figure out how many years. Between, Ninth Avenue and Seventh Avenue, Black Mountain, San Martin. And we moved away in 58, or whatever. But, I'm a longtime member of the College Temple Church, right over here on 42nd. And, I've seen a lot of people who come and go, come and go around, some have gone on. But I thank the Lord that I'm blessed, to be 94 years old. And believe it or not, this young man over here is Blackwell. Blackwell is how to play ball together, still play ball together. But you know it or not, I believe it or not. They still play ball. Do you have skating here?
Still play ball.
They play ball. Thank you.
My name is Charlotte. Transplant from Kansas, and born and raised. Been here since 1979. When I moved here, being a Zion, was born in Zion. That's where my mom's house is. I got a call from Secretary. He said, that's one where we're not representing house, and I'm looking for house, was well represented. Well, and they, ones who are here, more history about Oak Park than I would know, that I'm here to learn in this community. My name is Ida Francis. Ida Wade Francis. John Wade is my brother. He is the owner. I am the next. But he told me he was 94. So I'm 91. I came to Sacramento in 1953, and I joined College Temple when it was Zion Church, and that's where my ministry still is. And I worked in College and in the community, and I'm still there, still working, although I'm not able to do as much as I have done. And so I'm just thankful that I'm able to see this day and see that Oak Park is coming together and doing what we should and ought to. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Allianne Hassan, formerly Allianne Maxwell, then Allianne Maxwell Johnson. And ma'am. Call me by different names. And, I moved to California. Oak Park was my first town, my first place to live. And people who look like me. I come from Washington DC, so I was really looking for people who look like me because I wasn't used to much of other than that. I came here as an activist. I was involved with the group that changed Sacramento Boulevard to MLK. I was involved in the establishment of the MLK Community-wide Celebration, which is now MLK 365. So I have a lot of history here. My education led me to teaching and administration and working faculty unified school district and American Legion was my school. So I am proud to be here today and represent those activities that I was involved in. Although at home, I also worked at the AAE, which was been this community for a long, long time, still in the community. And I don't know if you guys have maybe reached out to Dr. White or Matt Worthy or Lauren Ware. So hopefully they have had their input in here because they truly have a lot of history on the book part. And I hope this reflected in the document. I can't wait to get to do it. But I also want us to notice that the Muslim community has been here for a long time as well. So I don't see any reference to that religious influence. They need to own property here in so hopefully I can help you from that information. That's what we're here for. We want to make sure we get it right. So please make sure that we provide all that information.
My name is Mike Benjamin Senior. Came to Sacramento in 1960 on February 14th. Now, about 5 p.m. noon. But anyway, I went to American Legion Elementary. I went to Stanford Junior High. I'm kind of responsible for that little arch up, the little trumpet guy up there. I'm from that committee. I went to American Legion. I went to Stanford. I went to Sac High. I went to Sac City. Went to Sac State. I went to North Carolina, built 2 theaters called the Sacramento Repertory Theater. And now I know where Anderson Liquor was. But anyway, I just did to say that I've been in this community and with the Little League, with Mr. Blackwell, and this is one of the most unique community I ever lived in. They got the best water in this town. If you live in Oak Park, that's why we're all still alive. It's so, I'm just so blessed to be around some of the most legendary people in Sacramento. You know, and so let's keep it going and let's have fun. It's, you know, like I said, I can talk an hour about theater, but I'm gonna shut it down. But I'm just gonna say I am so thankful to be here among some of these wonderful people. So let's just keep it going, okay?
Good afternoon. My name is Diane Blanchard Buffington, and I'm a native of Sacramento. I went to American Legion, and then I went to Oak Ridge, as they changed it out, Stanford, and Sac High. And I'm just the native, and I'm glad to be here.
Hi, and
Thank you.
My name is Janet Slade, and I am a Sacramento native. I've been here for 66 years. And I am proud to be here, to be able to participate in this project, because I remember my grandparents have to set a strip shop,
barbershop, beauty shop, right into it, right there, firehouse. And so I'm living in this area, and the one who lives in the car, but I'm so grateful to be here in this life. Thank you all for me.
Speak up a little bit. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
No.
So, back on. Back in the day, everyone was how many others? Yeah, we all went back. And so, I don't know, people that here. I'm here.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. You got one.
University in Arkansas, a lot of people open, that watch the movie.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody that, this is a great thing that's coming around in the park. My name is Juan Blackwell. This is my dad, Norm Blackwell, the baby boy of 30. Hey, you got your young brother somewhere. Hey, that's that. My senior, we grew up here in Oak Park. I'm still there. I'm line of bread, everything's going on there, but he does a great job of doing volunteer Wednesdays and Fridays. And I was born and raised in that house across the street. We're still there.
Wow.
I graduated in '85. Went to Sac High, went to Sac City. I drafted with the New York Yankees, so started playing professional baseball. And then continue now. I work with the youth. Me and Mike got something set up with the Urban League, and we're doing a clinic on February the 25th at Airport Little League. And we're trying to get all the low income communities together because they don't get as much things in other areas. So we're just trying to build on that way. And we got something good. And here to stay, I moved to Lancaster for 22 years. I'm back, I'm staying with my dad. And my mom, she passed away 4.5 years ago. Been a blessing though, but he still teaches me things and I teach him things. And he's still bigger at me. But I love him very much and continue, like I said, these ages. Some water in there, it might say some good water, but hey, I want to get the water that they get. 90 and 93, you don't see that long. That's how you take care of your body. If you need help, with other people trying to help you take care of your body, please ask, talk. Oh, hey, feel bad about something, you always communicate with the next person. Don't close mouth, won't help. But just talk. If somebody you need to talk about something, I gotta do it for a while. Been married for 34 years. Been a blessing every day. Thank you. Yeah. You guys did it. I'm gonna do it. And good job. If no one knows what a job is, that's what I have, job. All my life.
6 years old, never missed a year playing ball, no matter what I was doing. I, was born November 22nd, 1933. That'd be 90. I was born in Santa Monica.
53.
Yeah, I came here when I was 8 years old. In Old Park, I've been here since. But you're talking about 80, so I've been in Old Park 80 something years. I went to Red Heart, Stanford, and Classic. It was tough because district then, we were over there for years. 6th Avenue, boundary line of the freeway. And Curtis Park, William Land. We were on welfare. We were going to Red Heart. Kids that lived in William Land, Curtis Park, well off and everything. But we made it. The basically, I'm still playing ball. Right, I'm still having fun. Still having fun. This stops being fun. One thing I want to know, gentleman here, John Wade, he is the oldest black in the world still playing. Second play. We're glad. I have more information than everything, but my mother was born right here. That's my mother. She was born right here. Yeah. But I have a lot of info if anybody wants to come across the street, 3909 8th Avenue. My wife built a trophy room. We had it in the bin. We got tired of cleaning them. She built this trophy room in my backyard. Anybody more than welcome if you want to come back and do it. A lot of info there. A lot of memories. I have more info, but that's it.
Okay. And again, remember, you will have the camera set up, so if you want to elaborate a little bit more on your story, we will record that this afternoon as well.
Okay, I guess since I started this, no, I got some words to. But my name, which y'all know, Paul Fuller. And actually, as far as my background, I was born right here in the county hospital, that's the UCB. So I would have to say I've been here a long time, since 1945. I was born in the county hospital, South Queen. That's my southern spot. All right. So anyway, bottom line was, my family, I'm a Willie, that's my mother's baby, Willie. So, Willie, we actually came to Sacramento prior to 45. My uncle James, who lived to be like 99 years of age, passed away. But we actually settled in Del Paso Heights. So y'all know that he bought a plot of land, 5 acres plot of land in Del Paso Heights. And he his tent, that's where we built our first house, Del Paso Heights. Y'all know where that is. Oh, yeah. All right, Norwood, that area. But anyway, that's kind of like my beginning out there. But from there, I actually, for my parents, I was a Fuller, like I say, my dad was kind of like an entertainment, but he didn't do a lot, but in a sense, he liked to put on parties. Like, I don't know, the Momo Fuller, AJ Fuller might have met him way back in the days, I don't know. But bottom line, he did that type of work. And as far as, we were concerned, we lived out in, Del Paso until I was about 5, 6, 7 years of age. And then we moved into Seaton Circle, I was a housing project. So from Seaton Circle, okay, then I went to, actually it was, Lincoln Junior High School. And that's, one of the historical sites, Lincoln Junior High School, which was tore down. But then from there, I went to, because at that time, like I say, Stanford, it was actually burnt down. Yes. That story. But, actually, I went to my classroom with this man, but I was after him, Norman Blackwell, but I was in McClatchy High School. So I graduated out of McClatchy High School, because I was in the projects in the circle. So our boundaries said that we could go to McClatchy, which they really did not want us there. We were there. So from there, I went to Sac City College after McClatchy High School. So I went to McClatchy, then I went to Sac City College. And then from there, of course, I got into the service, and I actually went to Fresno State. I actually finished out at Fresno State. So my background kind of goes around. I circled. I actually lived here in Oak Park, 33rd Street, right down from the front. So that's my mother bought a home there when I was in high school. So we actually I was I could say high school, city college. I was in city college. I was living in Oak Park. So I was an Oak Park resident in city college. My wife, that you all know, is a Royster. I think you all know Royster. Royster, there's a lot of history. We'll get into the oral side of that. She'll give everyone a lot of information and history about the Royster family, because you know Jerry Royster being by far the like I say, baseball, these guys are into the baseball side. But I would say Jerry, on the professional side, he would be your icon as far as Oak Park is concerned, who made it to the big league and did well in the professional area. So,
This was a dream, not even jumper.
Wait, so,
Look at that.
you can, see, that's why you didn't want to start. You need to go. Okay, we're gonna jump up here, but before, because I don't know if you may, I also want to make sure I acknowledge my staff, Jessica. She may have run out, but Jessica has been over at the table and she's phenomenal. So I want to acknowledge my staff, Jessica. And then I also want to acknowledge my bosses here. Thank you for coming, Mike Josso. He is our assistant city manager for the city of Sacramento. So he's over all of convention and cultural services. He's over the Office of Innovation and Economic Development. And he's also over community development in the planning as well. So thank you, Mike, for coming out. Let's hop over here to Mr. McKinney.
Height in 1950. I grew up between here and Los Angeles. So I've told my story. I'm sorry? Yes, ma'am. I was born in the Heights in 1950, and I grew up between here and Los Angeles. Went to elementary school out in the Heights, went to junior high school and high school in LA, and then moved back to Sacramento. Graduated from Burbank in '67. I've been in and out of Sacramento.
Thank you.
Sorry, boy. I've been in Sacramento in 1946.
What's your name?
Bird. Pretty good at the time.
What's your name?
My name is Wade Bird.
Bird.
I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. I don't know if you guys never heard of Jackson.
Yeah.
Anyway, up here, I think, 45. And, we live downtown in Japanese Valley. So it's the Oriental State, Asian State of Japanese Valley. Couldn't get no house in it. Oak Park, up with that, never no park. Oh, man, got a feather on your head. I consider it a pretty good area. But anyway, by that time, when the school, in fact, this was my school, Sanford Junior High. Donner, and the Donner School, Stanford School, Sacramento High. And by the way, when I got here, my first job, a lot of you may not know, started the first publishing company here, first black newspaper was a man called, there wasn't what it is now, but the Observer. The Outlook, the Sacramento Outlook, I don't know if anybody remembers. Revenue started that. I was in first. Seven cents a pound. Even before that, I was confused. I didn't know what it is. It was Sacramento. I knew it at that time. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. Everyone got along well. Every Fourth of July, we had a celebration down, 34th Street here. And they, at that time, 46. Everybody got along pretty well. Sure, we had some bad apples, but it didn't stand out as much as it did later on. But it turned out to be that this is my home. I love Sacramento. And I went to move elsewhere, but it was really nice to meet you. Yeah, I started working for the post office. I sold papers, I did everything. Anything to make a dollar, I was glad. I worked at the post office. When I started the post office, we were about 5 black carriers, whole city of Sacramento. We were on 5 black. The first thing, when I got interviewed, I had to work way up. I worked my way up. They'll have the mailman. And the first question, the guy asked, can we trust you?
Wow.
Well, not responsibility. Well, can we trust you? I was in the Navy 4 years. They trust me. I got all of this. So anyway, I started working at the post office in 19. Working at the mail. I used to be there. Had other jobs. But that was one of the main jobs. And I became a radio announcer for KJAY radio. Anyone remember KJ radio? I do. Anyway, I just moved to Sacramento. This is my home. I love it.
Yes, sir.
It's been nice. We got changes. Very nice.
Oh, my name is Otto Lang. Oh, go back on to the name. Go back on. I'm listening to Bill Bethel High. By way of my grandparents who were natives of Sacramento County in 1892. Whoa. And I've been around the Sacramento area, Sacramento, New York, High. I've seen a lot of changes that have been made over the years, and they keep continuing to grow. So we've been here, we know a lot about Sacramento.
Howard Buffer. I wasn't raised here. I was raised in the desert of California. Galloway. Okay. I came here in 1958 because Sacramento State accepted me as a student. And the first people I met was Carl Pickler and John Perry. They welcomed me and they introduced me to Sacramento. Wade Bird was the first person I met. Down in Florida, Wade. I met them there, and the guy named Dino Gladden, I don't know if you remember him, he had a gas station here. I stayed with him for a while, and then I ended up completing my education, and Sacramento's my home. I've been here a long time. Naaman Brown became one of my best friends. I was involved with his campaign when he ran against Robert Matsui, when he won the state. Naaman really didn't have much of a chance, but he ran anyway. I remember Joe Cooper, had been the first black person to run for the mayor of Sacramento.
I'm a member of the Familiar City Ski Club, first black ski club, so we can imagine black people up there skiing a couple times. I really don't like cold weather, but I go to ski club now, Familiar City and Heavenly Ski Club, if you're interested in skiing. And so, I've become a part of Sacramento, and I enjoy the city, and I enjoy the people, and, I've had a great time here, and it's an honor to be invited to come to this meeting today.
I'll see if I can handle it.
Okay.
My name is Charlie Harris. And I was laying in my bed. Somebody called. And the message came in at 5:45. So he sent a text, which was why. That was a little bit upset. In the phone call that early in the morning. But Brother Taze Ellis, business partner of mine, invited me to come out. And I want to tell you something. This has been the best church meeting I've been to. Been some friends that I've known for a while. Somebody told me you should say name is make a better cup. Okay, yeah, I did give up. But the thing that I really want to say and really touched me a little bit. I was born in a place called Hollow Ridge, Louisiana. The only place that exists now is on the map. Okay, doesn't exist. That was a sawmill town. Okay? Oh, there's so much. You say things that are all in the narrative. I want to give my mother a lot of credit. Because she took me to the cotton field when I was about 5 years old. I started there. The next thing that I know about, well, I won't go to this. Yeah, it's not about bounce around. And by the way, I am 81. I probably have done, I didn't hear any preachers up there. I probably have done more talking than a lot of people. I am a salesman, and I've done a few things, but I think the most important thing after holiday is getting into the military. Of course, there's a reason why that happened. I wound up here in McClellan because I had been testing the atomic bombs at a place called Johnson Island. So from the private field, we there to testing bombs in Johnson Island. That's a big spread and a lot of different things. Okay? But what that really did for me, it put me in mind of a lot of things. But while I was here in McClellan, I was looking at the bulletin board and I said, who is this stuff up like? What is that? I wasn't thinking about going to college thing, but that's what it was all about, is going to college. They had classes out at American College where I met that lady that was dressed in pink that was supported the way. Okay? And I'm proud to say I have 13 college graduates in my family. One is Dr. Paulette Harris Matthews. Another one that didn't go to college, but he could have gone to college. Michael Harris. In fact, anybody else with Michael Harris? Yeah. Just a few people. Okay. Well, one of the things that he did, there were unknown nigger graves up in Folsom. He heard about that. He got that turned around. Done a lot of things. Of course, he's been doing. What is that? That the black people doing now? Christmas time. Christmas. Yeah, that's a big thing. That's what he. But I'm proud to say, I didn't already say, 13 graduates out of college. I'm proud of that. That's the whole team is now getting to and I really can't push it anymore. But here's what our problem is. Right now, it's a bunch of seniors that are here now. Okay, it's our young people. How do we bring them together and get them to go where we need to go, where they need to go? Also, I want to thank you, Brother Benson, for everything else this morning. I'm going to sit down.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taze Ellis. I'm a licensed general contractor, and I was born and raised right behind Christian Brothers High School in Oak Park. Now, listen to everybody express how much they love Sacramento. And I started thinking about it, and I said, you know what, I do too. I bought a plane and I flew my family around this great country of ours. But we always wanted to come back home. I don't like the weather in Tennessee, Mississippi, Virginia, Maryland, or any place else. And I love the weather here in Pennsylvania. And I'm also an avid voter. And so as you go around the country, that's like that. But here in the Sacramento River and on the American River, it's so tight that you get to enjoy that. I love that. I love Sacramento. I love being in Oak Park again. And I'll help all you guys.
So we also have a special guest that was here and he just wants to come and maybe say a few words. We have our mayor here.
Thank you, Lynette. I actually want to say very few words because I want to step back and I want to continue listening because this is so rich. It's so important. And I'm so grateful to all of you who have come out to make sure that your history is forever part of Sacramento's history. I'm a huge history buff myself. Read everything that I can. And there's nothing more powerful than stories. And the African-American experience, the Black experience in Sacramento is so important for all Sacramentans and the entire state and country to know about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Because I know we are still overcoming a lot of decisions that were made in decades past where discrimination, redlining was just the way that it was. And these stories, again, not all the bad and the ugly, the good too, will inspire not only policymakers like myself, but future mayors, future council members to make the right, the correct, the redeeming decisions. And so thank you, Annette. Thank you to the city. Thank you to everyone who is, Kelly, working so hard to put together this initiative. And please, don't hold back because what you're doing is a gift. It's a gift to future generations of Sacramento. Thank you.
Okay. And Michael Benjamin didn't introduce himself. So Michael Benjamin, he's one of us now. So you all know Michael Benjamin from Oak Park, but now he works at the city of Sacramento. So he always tells me, "You work for the man." Well, you do too now.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Lynette Hall. Nice to have you on there. I don't work for the man, I work for the people. So, listen, first and foremost, let me say, I thank you all for being here. This is imperative as we see things going on around the country, right? We see certain people trying to take history and culture out of education, right? And this is the space where we can combat that, right? When the community comes together to tell their story. A lot of times what happens, especially in our community, is these kids act the way they act because they don't know the history from whence things came, right? So if you don't know the contributions of Mr. Blackwell and Mr. Trump in baseball in Oak Park, then you won't know how to respect the game when you get to McClatchy Park to play, right? So it's important that we tell these stories. One of my digs is, and I'm hoping that comes out of this, is that the state passed a law where schools will start to teach ethnic studies, and I've always thought that ethnic studies needs to start right here. So if we can all tell our stories, right, of our communities and where we come from, then I guarantee you'll start to see that you start to respect the spaces that they're in. It's up to us. We need to tell these stories. What we're going to ask you to do is to break out soon, right? And there's different tables. You have arts and culture, recreation,
what's that one over there?
Business.
Business and commercial, you have migration, right? Tell me your story, how you got here. Religion and spirituality, and there's one more. Civic engagement. What we're gonna ask you to do is to go ahead and think about those and think about those spaces that you feel more, those comfortable about talking about, right? Because what we wanna do is we wanna capture this. We wanna capture your story in an interview format. So we have the camera set up. Those who are interested, please consider telling your story. The oral histories is what we have, right? We live in a country where at one point in time we weren't allowed to read or write. And all we had was our oral history to pass down to our youth. We have to continue that, okay? I know we got the internet, things like that, but some of the things culturally that we developed can never be replaced, and that is our story, okay? So thank you. I'm your District 5 representative for Council District 5, and you'll be seeing a lot more. Thank you.
We have a question on what happens to the oral histories that are provided. So one of the things I want you all to know, we are recording the meeting today. The oral histories become ours. So they will be in the Center for History's archives, but it's available to all City of Sacramento residents for free. So if you all are having a Black History Month celebration in the future, or whatever you have going on, these are stories that are ours that you all can use. So I want you to know that we're not just asking you to tell your stories to go on a bookshelf, right? We want these to be used. I also like to give an example on what can this document be used for. So we know this is just the start. We're hoping that this document allows us to seek additional funding. We know Larry Lee at the SAC Observer needs to digitize his archives. That's a couple $1 million worth of a job, right? And so we're hoping that documents like this will allow us to apply for additional grants in order to do some of that work as well. So I want you all to know we have to get this right. Okay, so I want to turn it over to Claire. She's going to quickly kind of go through how to kind of navigate this document. And then we will break out into some tables, and depending on if the food is ready, you can make your plate and then go sit at the table and have a discussion. Okay. Here is one of our consultants.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I missed some of the introductions earlier, but my name is Claire Flynn. I'm a Sacramento native too, and I'm incredibly honored to be part of this. So I'm going to try to do I can stand over here. Okay. I'm going to try to do a really quick presentation, just an overview of some of the information that's in the historic context statement, because we know it's very long. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Well, anyway,
I want you guys to know what the goal of this project is. So the goal of the project is one, we want to acknowledge racial injustice using history. The other one is we want to document Black history in an accurate way. We want to recognize some of the historic properties that are important to the Black community. And so we all know that there's a lot of rules around what is considered historic, but there are places in our neighborhoods that we consider historic, right? And so we want to make sure that those are documented. We want to challenge misinformation that was out there. There's always rumors, this and that. We want to make sure that we challenge that information. And again, we want to record Black voices for future generations. I want my daughter, who's 10, to know how Sacramento used to look. I heard about how thriving Sacramento or Stockton Boulevard was. I haven't seen that in my lifetime. So I want her to know that.
okay, all right. So the context statement is pretty long, as you've seen, but we've broken it down into 5 chapters based around themes. And so as I'm talking, again, consider which theme or topic you're most interested in, because we're going to do some breakout group discussions after this. So the first chapter talks about migration and settlement. And this is basically about housing. You may or may not know, but for the bulk of the African-American history of Sacramento, African-Americans have largely lived in the West End, which is kind of roughly the downtown area today. That was a very diverse, multicultural, vibrant neighborhood and kind of the urban center of Sacramento for most of the city's history. The African American population of Sacramento was really small for a long period of time, but there was a period of growth in the early 20th century, 1920s, 1930s or so, due to the first great migration of African Americans from the South to cities in the North and West, including Sacramento. This chapter, we do talk about housing discrimination that really restricted and concentrated African Americans into the West End. So things like redlining, restricted covenants, and racial steering practices by the real estate industry that really kept people in the West End and out of the newer subdivisions. The West End was the center of Black life until the 1950s, when the West End was redeveloped. So that basically means that, most of the West End was demolished and replaced with, office building, parking lots, things of that nature. That resulted in the relocation and shifting of the African American population to areas of the city to the north, the south, and the east. And the rise of other neighborhoods like Oak Park and Del Paso Heights that, previously there had been a foothold of African American residential life there starting in the early 1900s, but it was really by the 1960s that this migration of African Americans into those neighborhoods and flight of white residents out was when they became primarily non-white neighborhoods. The next chapter talks about businesses and commercial development. One of the really interesting, amazing things is that African Americans have been in Sacramento since before the city was ever founded. The earliest African Americans to come here were fur traders and explorers who came during expeditions in the early 1800s. And then during the gold rush, many people came as miners, just like so many other people. Once the city was more established, however, again, discrimination started to restrict people to positions that were more low-paying service industry-related jobs, hospitality, those sorts of things. But our research has shown that there were lots of exceptions to that. So there were people who owned businesses, there were people who had professional careers. I've got a list of some examples here: medical professionals, attorneys, teachers, all those sorts of things going back to the 1800s. Next slide. Again, most African American businesses were based in the West End through the 1950s, because again, that's where the majority of the community was at that time period. Due to, unfortunately, the small size of the African American community in Sacramento, most of those businesses were sort of forced by necessity to cater primarily to white clientele, and similar to lots of other minority-owned businesses in Sacramento. Again, there's some examples of some early businesses there. And then there are also some examples in other areas of Sacramento in this early 20th century period, like Del Paso and Irvine Park. Yes. World War II, as we all know, was a big change. It opened many different employment opportunities in Sacramento due to the opportunities of military bases in the area. It also saw the rise and growth of the Black professional class. So again, I've listed the names of some individuals here. Some of them, you probably actually know a lot of them within Poly being one, but again, attorneys, pharmacists, police officers, social workers, all those kinds of people were coming to Sacramento in that time and establishing successful careers. Next. Oh yeah, so the West End, again, African American businesses were located throughout the West End. There were some concentrations, including on Capitol Avenue between 4th and 7th Street. Businesses such as the Momo Club and Congo Club. The impact of redevelopment. So redevelopment, like housing, also resulted in the destruction of most African American businesses in the West End and downtown area. But as a result of that, again, businesses were forced to relocate, and that led to the rise of new African American business districts in other parts of the city, including the park, where we're right over here. Broadway between 35th and Alhambra became a new African American business district. And then in Del Paso Heights, there was a new district around the intersection of Grand and Palmetto and Linda. Next. The third chapter is about religion and spirituality. We know that throughout history, churches have been central to African American life, not just as places of spiritual worship, but also as places of safety and refuge, community uplift, community gathering. And in Sacramento, the two oldest African American churches here were founded almost simultaneously at the founding of the city itself. So St. Andrew the AAE was founded in 1850, which is the same year that the city of Sacramento was incorporated. And it's also the same year that California became a state. And then just 6 years later, Shiloh Baptist Church was founded. So they're really old. It's the oldest continuously operating churches on the West Coast. And the churches, the leaders of those churches, the pastors, the congregations were really leaders of the community, civil rights leaders, social leaders, every single form. So as the population of Sacramento grew and as the African American population grew, the number and diversity of churches also expanded to incorporate different denominations, different types of worship, different styles of belief, all those sorts of things. So by 1965, there were 35 Black churches listed in the city directories. And similar again to housing and businesses, the churches were also impacted by redevelopment and were also again forced to relocate to different neighborhoods, including Shiloh Baptist and St. Andrews. The fourth chapter is a big one. This one covers civic engagement, activism, and the fight for civil rights. This is kind of alluding to what I was just talking about, but the churches in this early period were really leading the fight for civil rights. They were leading activism in Sacramento. St. Andrews, for instance, hosted what were called the California College Conventions, which were statewide meetings of African American leaders to address issues that were facing all African Americans throughout the state. And it was somewhat out of those conventions that Sacramento became a hotbed for Black activism, particularly around the issue of public education, providing public education to children of color. So here in the 1850s, the oldest Black churches or schools for African American children were founded by individuals such as Elizabeth Scott Blood and Reverend Jeremiah Sanderson. And then that legacy was carried forward by people like Sarah Miller Jones, who was the first Black principal in Sacramento. And this is a picture of her with one of her classes. She's in the middle. Next. And then in the early 1900s, leadership in fight for civil rights sort of shifted to the local branch of the NAACP, which was founded in 1916 by Thomas Allen Harvey of Kyle's to Play in Zion Church. Yes, ups to them. And I say that it shifted leadership, but really they were still very closely integrated with the SNC. Church leaders became leaders of the NAACP. They're not just the pastor, but the leaders in the congregations as well, where they were all very closely entwined. And again, in the 1940s, the power and influence of the local NAACP chapter movement, partially because of that influx of African American professionals into Sacramento. So the most famous being Nathaniel Colley, who's probably best known for his work with housing discrimination. So we talk about the desegregation of Helvetia, important cases like Lynn versus Corrigan, as well as important laws from the Fair Housing Act, other things local NAACP's work with those big accomplishments. And we do discuss other important local NAACP leaders, including Vernon Hansen, Albert Tripp, Reverend Sylvester Odom, and others. We do talk about grassroots efforts to address housing discrimination as well. So we work with Black realtors to provide housing. The work of the Women's Civic Improvement Club, yay. We're providing housing to single Black women. And then in the 1960s, we see a shift toward more direct approaches to achieving change within the community. So efforts that were inspired by the work of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, the Black Pride and Black Consciousness movements, all of those things. And out of that, a lot of the community groups and organizations were founded, many of which were here in Oak Park. Some of them were local branches of national chapters, things like the Congress for Racial Equality, which organized sit-ins and protests in town. Others were a little bit more focused, so groups like the Sacramento Committee for Fair Housing, which worked for fair housing for people of all races. Students also got in on the action in the 1960s and started organizing protests and sit-ins on their own to fight for equal educational opportunities for students of color throughout Sacramento. So in this area, we do talk about the destruction of Stanford Junior Middle School right here in 1963 by arson and the impacts on the community that caused. We also talk about local BSU chapters and their work and the founding of Black studies programs such as the Oak Park School of Afro-American Thought. Next. This chapter it also continues with the discussion of the activity of the Black Panther Party in Sacramento. Starting with their march from Oakland to the state capitol in 1965 to protest passage of the Wolford Act. The founding of the Black Panthers Party chapter here in Oak Park in 1968. And then, culminating in those 3 summers of police violence here in Oak Park in 1968 to 1971, the trial of the Oak Park 4, and of course the acquittal of the Oak Park 4. And again, thank you to Mr. McKinney over there for his oral history on that. And then all the century plus of efforts culminates in the election of the first African Americans to local political office in the 1960s and 1970s. And I've listed some of those early council members here: Milton McGee, Reverend Roosevelt, Robert Robertson, and Herman Lawson. Thanks. And the last and final chapter is about music, arts, and recreation. Yes. That's a good question. That's a good question. That's why we're doing this. Thank you so much. We will definitely work on including that.
So that is Mr. and Mrs. James Shelby. Mr. Shelby started the Urban League. And so we left it off because we need to involve in the project and telling us to put it on. So we definitely need, I think it was Alianne that said, where's the Urban League? Why are they not? And you're right. We need to make sure what we have not included is included. So that's why we are getting you here today. This is the first meeting. We hope you will come back again and provide that input. Take this document home, mark it up, come back to the next meeting and tell us what we are missing. So thank you, Mr. Shelby, for coming out.
Yeah, thank you so much. And last but not least, this is arts, culture, and recreation, and this chapter is organized a little bit differently than all the other ones. So rather than going chronologically, it's organized by topic. The first one is about music, theater, and fine art, and there's just some highlights here of some of the key figures and groups to talk about, including the Higher Sisters, who were these amazing sisters from Sacramento in the 1800s, who were locally and nationally known singers and theatrical performers, and they not only started but developed groundbreaking theatrical performances that challenged stereotypes of African Americans that were really popular at this time period. Churches, world churches for hosting cultural and artistic events. Jazz clubs on Capitol Avenue, clubs, and bar club, etc. Successful local musicians such as Robert Brookins, who's down there on the bottom of the history, little Robert Bells. Artists, Akensanya Pavone, who was a member of the Black Panther Party and an illustrator for them, and went on to have a successful fine arts career. And then a well-known actor such as Barbara. We have a chapter on Black journalism, so I appreciate, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but I mentioned the Sacramento Outlet is on here. Sacramento had many Black newspapers over time. Most of them were fairly short-lived, but they laid the groundwork for the most well-known of them all right now, the Sacramento Observer, which was founded in 1965 in Sacramento. We also talk about important early journalists such as Bertha Gordon and Ginger Butler. I think we've recently heard about some others, so keep telling us more about all this. Social clubs, fraternities, and sororities. These types of groups were really popular among people of all races in the sort of 1800s to early and mid 1900s. And they were important places to socialize, charity work, self-improvement, and myriad other activities. But unfortunately, like so many things, African Americans were typically barred from the white versions of these, so they created their own. And there were numerous of these throughout Sacramento. I've listed just a few examples here, but we'd love to know more about their work, what kind of projects and things they worked on, where they met, all that kind of stuff. Thanks. And last but not least, we talked about athletics. Again, we listed just some examples of known successful athletes that have come out of Sacramento here, though we know that there are a lot more. We'd also love to learn more about the youth leagues, the role of high school sports, where they played, and also hear from you what you think about what would make somebody a historically important person in sports. I think that's it. That's a lot. So thank you for listening to me for that long. And now it's back to all of you.
So we wanted to kind of walk through the document with you all, and then we're going to have you guys kind of go over to breakout tables to just have more intimate conversations. If you have any questions, staff will be around. And then I think it may be easier, we will bring plates over to you all so you guys don't have to get up. So once you guys go sit at one of the breakout tables, we'll bring you food over. Any questions? I see some of you, go ahead. Documents.
So the question was about documents. We are looking for historical documents along with oral history. On the back page, so these are yours to take home. You could draft the historical context. As we said, it's an evolving document. We're looking for feedback. To provide feedback on the last page is all of our contact information. So there's my cell phone number, there's my email, there's a project email, there's Carson Anderson's email, his phone number, Henry's email, his phone number. Any of these will get to any of us. We can, if you don't want to sit for an oral history today, if you want to tell a long form story or something comes to mind, send us an email, give us a call. We'll come meet you where you are to tell your story. Documents, we can, if we can meet, also meet you in your home, we can bring you to our office. But if you contact us, we can coordinate. We have our 2 interns who are helping us, Kristen and Ashley, who can come arrange to meet you. So we'll come to you, we'll meet you where you are. But this last page is the key. This is where our contact information is. So these are the ways to get a hold of us to coordinate that.
What access will the community have to artifacts and documents? I know in the past, it was once they were donated, that it was very, very hard to access those things for perhaps a Black History exhibit or other things. So I'd like to know, are they just going to be put away? And, but how will they be accessed?
So for one thing, we're not looking to actually receive physical copies. We're looking to just take photographs. And then those would become part of a larger collection that will include both oral histories, but also these artifacts and documents at the Center for Sacramento History. That's a public facing city and county archive that anyone can go into. We've also partnered with organizations like Shiloh Baptist Church to do oral histories of their elder members, and they'll keep a copy of those oral histories as well as being in the collection. So we also want to make those oral histories available, like the Sojourner Truth Museum. They're looking to expand their programming into local history. So this both the historical research that we've done, but also oral histories and documents that we collect will also be offered to them. If they, whatever they would like, they can have copies of that as well. But we want it to be as open and available as possible. The Center for Sacramento History is the easiest way for us to make it available to the public because they've already stood up that. So too, about historical photographs, for example, if the photographers are here that have pictures and photographs, is there any compensation or any type of copyright benefits for allowing people to take photographs or using their photographs? Is there any place in the grant that compensates people for those kind of things? We do have a stipend program, is what we refer to it commonly. We have a few $1,000 basically that when people come to us with, let's say someone has a big photograph collection and they say, I'd like to make this part of the collection. And for my time and effort to participate in this project, I'd like X amount of money. We'll look at that, we'll review it with our stipend partners that fund the stipends. And we haven't turned down any stipends, anyone that's come to us with a proposal yet. So we're trying to get that money out there. It's intended to compensate people for their time.
So we started out with about $10,000 for stipends. And so the stipends are really used for getting folks together, right? we're providing food today, but we know some of you all may want to do something a little bit smaller, right? And so the stipend is available to you for that as well. Shiloh Baptist Church utilized the stipend because they were holding oral history sessions at their churches on Saturday, where they had their elder members come and provide their oral histories. So they were able to provide food, you know, camera equipment, things of that nature. So depending on what the ask is, we'll try to accommodate. But I just want to be clear of how much money. So it's not a ton of money. 50, yeah. We spent 4,000, so got about $6,000. And can you guys introduce yourselves, please?
There you go.
Hey.
We represented about 40 years.
Been here about 2 years. So. Yeah. You got it.
This is Robert Maryland here and myself, there you go.
Hold the mic up.
Robert Maryland and I, about 40 years of and we covered so much. I mean, I'm going to my archive now at home, putting all the order and stuff like that. And I still haven't got all the stuff I've shot over the years, a lot of stuff. And we used to, not to even just send us out, say, hey, we'll cover that, and then we'll cover that. So we covered a little bit of everything that was happening. So, 3 years worth of, so we would, like be a part of this thing and figure out how we can contribute to what you guys are doing. Did you miss it? I'm just saying, this is like to be a part of the contribution to some of those things here. We have pictures and stuff to represent that.
What's your name? What's your
Larry
name?
Dog,
Larry Dog.
and this is Bobby Harris. He was there for 5. He did a lot of good work. He was one of the best photographers I've seen in a second.
So with that being said, let's go ahead and break out into some smaller groups so we can have some of those conversations. Staff may be there recording the conversation, so let us know if you're not okay with being recorded. Unless you all say something, I'm gonna assume that you guys are okay with being recorded. So if you all want to join one of the breakout, happy to bring over some more chairs, and then staff will actually bring over food to you all. Thank you.
You turn on the lights.
Okay, so earlier we gave you some seconds to take a look at, right? And we really want to capture, we got so much power and we really want to capture the story. So after your breakouts, if any of you are interested in just doing a one-on-one interview, we have a camera so we can go ahead and capture your story. Okay, thank you.